You are listening to the Model Train Talk podcast. Each episode, RJ and I discuss various topics about the world's greatest hobby, model trains. The purpose of this podcast is to help promote, inspire, and bring a breath of fresh air to the hobby. Recording the podcast makes it possible to share stories of others and to help grow the model train community. Thank you for listening to the Model Train Talk podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Model Train Talk podcast. And here on the podcast show today, we have Matt's Trains and Tractors. We want to thank him for coming on today and sharing a little bit of his story. So Matt, thank you for coming on. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Sam and RJ. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So the first question we ask all our guests, how did you get into the hobby?
Well, my brother, when he was young, he's a lot older than me, but he had a pretty good sized model layout in our old house. And my dad and him, they kind of brought up the hobby, acquired a lot of rolling stock and a lot of locomotives from Lionel. Mostly locomotives from Lionel, a few Rail King pieces of rolling stock. And then when my brother moved out, we eventually moved to this current house, and my father and I really expanded the layout here, and we acquired a lot more locomotives and a lot more rolling stock. And then the whole YouTube thing started to kind of really become a new hobby of mine, and that really accelerated my passion for model railroading.
Awesome. So I was actually looking at your YouTube channel and you were also into G gauge as well, a little bit.
Yeah, I am. I have a G gauge layout outside of my backyard that belonged to the old owner of this current home that I'm in, and I've been trying to clean it up for the years that I've been here. I was trying to get locomotives running on it last summer. Hopefully this summer though.
Okay, interesting.
It'd be perfect right now with all the snow that we're getting up in the Northeast, just to stick that out there in the snow.
Yeah, it would look great. It would
Have
look
clear
great.
snow.
That'd make for some pretty cool pictures too.
Yeah.
For those people who are unfamiliar with your channel, Matt, what type of modeling do you enjoy? Like, what type of models do you have, and what's your favorite era to model?
Sure. Yeah, so I model in O gauge. Fast track, really, as you guys can see, is the main track that I use here. It's Lionel, so Lionel O gauge, 3-rail O scale. And the kind of engines that I'm into, like I said earlier, my brother was a big fan of model railroading, so we have a lot of early TMCC locomotives. And now, because it's kind of my generation, I have, I believe, 3 Vision Line locomotives. I have a Niagara Big Boy and a Genset. So I love the Vision Line class. I hope to acquire more of that. And a few legacy locomotives. So I love the modern type. And the rolling stock is really anywhere from generic to mostly high quality.
When you started the hobby, how quickly did you transition into legacy and like the TMCC and stuff like that?
Right. So when right after Legacy was released was really when I got into the hobby, and my dad acted really fast and got the Legacy command control system and set that up on our old layout. So we had all the infrastructure for it, and because they release software updates, we're pretty much always up to date with that, which is nice. So I'd say right around when they released it, we got into it.
Okay. And so how did that influence the layout you have now? Or has it always kind of stayed the same?
Well, that's a good question because I feel like having the legacy has really changed the way we model. As you can see, the model railroad really isn't based off of anything. It kind of went where our ideas were taking us per se. So having the legacy system allowed us to really think about getting more locomotives, and especially like Division Line, for example. Having the legacy allows you to take advantage of the full functionality of those locomotives. So definitely having the upper scale locomotives, legacy, Vision Line, those those the functionality that comes with those locomotives can only be taken advantage of through the legacy system. So the legacy system has definitely brought a lot of different ideas and a lot of different pieces of rolling stock and locomotives to the layout that may not have been here if it weren't for the legacy controller.
And so now that you have legacy and you're able to incorporate a lot of new engines and features into your layout, what is your favorite
railroad to collect or favorite type of locomotive to collect?
Well, every couple years I like to switch it up. So I was on a big steam streak for a while. I was picking up a lot of steam, and then I kind of switched over to diesel. And so for the past couple years, I've been picking up some diesel locomotives. I can't really say I have a favorite just because we don't model after a certain railroad, so there's no one type of thing that we're looking for. But I do like a lot of like industrial pieces of rolling stock. So for example, like gondolas that could be used for like scrap metal or scrap pieces or stuff like that. So I do like that kind of stuff.
I'm right there with you. That we have to have like when I first really got into command control locomotives, all I wanted were diesel locomotives, and now I'm in a phase where you know now I want steam locomotives. And so we were talking on the live stream about the 2021 Volume 1 catalog. They're thinking about getting that 210-10-2 Santa Fe old Vision Line engine. So are you switching back to starting to get more some more steam again, or is that just a one-off? You really need to have that product.
No, you guessed it. You guessed it. That I'm switching back to steam. I've been picking up diesels for the past couple years. It's time to switch it back up to the good old steam. So yeah, I mean that locomotive, considering it's very special to line out, considering I believe it was their first Vision Line locomotive. So now that they're reintroducing it 11 or 10 years later, really cool. And because I wasn't able to pick it up that first time around, now I have the opportunity to pick it up again, or not again, but they brought back the locomotive, so definitely
Right,
gonna
right.
take advantage of that.
I know for me personally, if they bring back that Vision Line Hudson, I'll be all over that.
Oh yeah, the Hudson. Yep, that is nice.
Yeah, my layout does not have the room to incorporate any Vision steam locomotives, or I mean, I could have a couple, but still, the variation is very limited.
Sam, you're telling me that the Vision Line 210-10-2 would not fit on your 027 curves?
I mean, it might, but I don't know. I would have to pay a lot of money, and if it broke, then
Well, let's see. Your layout's 4x8, and the new Lionel S1, which isn't a Vision Line locomotive, it's 36.25 inches long.
Right.
So it would take up about half the length of your straightaway.
Yes.
New legacy steam locomotive.
Yes. That's kind of crazy to think about, though.
Well, I don't know who brought it up, but Matt, you're a fan of the New Hope and Ivyland Railroad.
Yeah, I live about 20 miles from it.
And Lionel's coming out with that set of the Jeep and the 4 passenger cars.
Yep, yeah, the excursion set. Yeah.
And someone remarked that it's the complete length of the set from front coupler to rear coupler is 90 inches long.
Wow.
And the person who was looking at it basically has a 4x8 table. I think it was like 4x9. And there's 96 inches and 8 feet. So he estimated that it would be the length of his table, the length of the set, and I think that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
But so getting back to the interview, Matt. So how big's your layout? It seems quite massive from your background there.
Yeah, so where I am now, I'm kind of in the center, so there's a cutout here. There's a cutout here, which is nice to have, so it's accessible. The straightaway that goes all the way down there, I believe is 13 feet, and then width-wise, it's probably, I'm gonna say 6. So it's probably 6 by 13 for this set, and then there's a steam yard back there, which I believe is 6 by 4. So, in total, I don't know square footage wise how much that really is off the top of my head. But it's a nice size layout. It's nice to have. One thing, it's great to have this much space, and it's great to have multiple levels, as you can see. But what is tough about it is accessing things, because there's so many things on top of each other. If something derails, like back there, it's really hard to access stuff back there, and that just happens to be one of the parts of the layout that right now doesn't have the best power connectivity. So you really
It's
have to.
always that's always the case.
Yeah.
Like when I built my mountain for my layout, I would always like I use tubular track, and so like sometimes it can be a little loose, and every time I'd run a train back there, it always eventually after like 10 laps or so it'd come loose, and I was like, well, I made an access hole, but I didn't make it big enough,
Mm.
and it's always been a pain. So I had to like take all the track apart, bring the entire curve section out, make sure to squeeze it together, and make sure it'll stay together and put it back in. But yeah, you talked about a little bit that YouTube became another part of the hobby for you. Do you want to talk about that a little more? I know you are a fairly young modeler, so how has YouTube for you, like, has the experience been good? Has the community for model trains been welcoming to you? You kind of want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm 13, and I have school. I'm in middle school, and that takes up a good amount of my daily life, and a good amount of my time. And model railroading has never really taken up as much time as it necessarily has. But now having the YouTube audience, even though I don't make money off of it, it still is kind of like motivation. Make videos, make good quality videos, satisfy the client. I've kind of been on a hiatus lately of not posting model railroading content. I'm trying to get back to it, but I've really just been working on schoolwork. But YouTube has definitely motivated me to model more and to pick up more rolling stock and more locomotives, and also really just, I guess, spend time down here in the basement instead of in front of a screen. Even though school is number one priority, sometimes you just have to step away a little bit, whether it's just running the trains for 5 minutes or taking up 20 minutes of your day to film a video and throwing it together. So YouTube has definitely influenced me to. It's good motivation. It's good motivation. It influences me to make videos, and also satisfy the client and getting feedback. I love the comment section. That's my favorite part of YouTube. Getting feedback is really important to me, at least, and it helps me grow.
Definitely, definitely. And it's good for the community to get to know new people and get to interact, especially, you know, still during the pandemic. I mean, I think RJ, do you remember we started this podcast in the pandemic, correct? Wasn't it March, our first episode?
No, it was. I want to say it was like May. May.
May.
May is when you
I'm
contacted Corey and I. Were like, hey, do you want to do this? And
okay, okay. Yeah, because I think I
maybe
might
April.
have had the idea in April or something, but
Maybe it was April, but it was. It wasn't March because like March we all thought that it was going to end, and it hasn't ended yet.
oh, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, that's yeah, okay.
Matt, when scene are you going to start on the layout?
I was really thinking that question was going to be asked of me sooner or later. I saw that one comment. I really got to get to it soon. If I flip the camera around, you could see like trees in plastic cases that have just never been unboxed, and we've had those for years and years. And even though there are a lot of things on top of each other, there's still a lot of surface here just to throw a little grass scene down, or even here where the computer's on right now. There's a stretch of a few curves, but there's some space kind of closer to the cutaway that I could make like a little park or something. So I'm hoping soon, RJ. I really hope soon.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh yeah. Definitely, definitely before the spring, we'll hopefully have something down. I've been trying to convince my dad a lot to work on it a little more, and now that you keep telling me about it, it's gonna happen.
Keep bugging him every video, put it in the comments section. Where's the scenery at? I have a question. What is on the shelf behind you in the very back towards the top? What are those two pieces up there on the shelf?
Right. So
Yeah,
let me just
yeah.
point in the right spot. So up there is a New York Central set. The top shelf is a actually the cars up there, the passenger cars. There's a one baggage car, two coaches, and an observation car. So I know it's in shadow. So the locomotive is up there, and I believe I'm not very good with locomotives, and that is my brother's locomotive, so you have to bear
Oh,
with me.
okay.
It
It's
is
okay. I'm not good with locomotives
yeah,
either.
it's a New York Central switcher. I believe it's like an SW8 or something. It's something like that. However, the passenger cars do not go with that locomotive. Those go with a Hudson, New York Central Hudson, which is also another locomotive of my brother's. But the Hudson does not fit on that shelf, so having that switcher up there definitely is nice. And they look great. And you guys might have seen those passenger cars. I put them behind my Niagara sometimes, just because
Okay.
the colors really go well with anything. And below that, that locomotive over there, I believe, is an SW 1000, maybe. I don't really know. It's New York Central as well. It has a few box cars, a few flat cars, and some slag cars behind it. So that's kind of meant to represent a local train. Just kind of a
Okay.
safe where I put some cars up there, take them off, bring them on the layout. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, what is your favorite locomotive in your collection? This is always like a hard question, but
Yeah, it not only is it hard because they all have a certain meaning to the modeler, but you don't want to talk bad about a locomotive in front of it. So next time we do
that's
the
a good quote. I
podcast
like that.
in another room. But um, I don't know. It's really hard. I'd have to say my favorite locomotive personally is probably the big boy 4005. I don't know if you can see it. It's back there right now. It's on the outer loop. But yeah, the Union Pacific big boy is really really cool. Lots of I think in my opinion it's Lionel's best locomotive. It was such an anticipated locomotive. And it's got a lot of detailing on it, really high quality, lots of creative ideas like the pressed coal load. The coal load and the tender goes up and down depending on like how far you've traveled, and also you can refuel the coal. So really, really cool features in there. And it's a locomotive that you can actually see in a museum today, and it's a type of locomotive that actually still runs today, which is really, really cool. 4014 out in the Midwest. So it may not be the same road name, but it has the same history to it.
Right.
Good thing I didn't put money on saying that your favorite model was Division Line Niagara.
That's a close second. The Niagara is great. It looks great. It's I love the smoke deflectors up front. And it's going around the Christmas tree for the past 2 years. So
All right. RJ, do you have any other questions you would like to ask Matt?
Nope, we'll let him go back to reading Shakespeare.
oh man, I'm done with that for now. I'm done with that for now. Thank God. Oh my God. How do you even pronounce half that stuff, man? Oh my
They're
gosh.
speaking the same language we do, just 500 years later.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Any closing thoughts for the audience today?
Um, Personally, thank you very much for watching. I know this is a shorter podcast compared to the ones that you guys normally do. I'm kind of short on time here. I have something at 5:05. I pushed it back 5 minutes. So it's great that I was able to come on this podcast with you guys. I really enjoyed it. Once again, thank you so much for having me. And it was great being on the live stream a few weeks ago. So I look forward to coming on this podcast sometime in the future.
Yeah, we will definitely have you as a recurring guest on the podcast show.
And before we end today's podcast, I just want to make sure everybody goes down into the description and checks out Matt's channel. It's Matt's Trains and Tractors here on YouTube. He definitely deserves a lot more subscribers than he has right now. So links in the description, and make sure to go check out his channel.
And that has been all from the Model Train Talk podcast. And we will see you guys in the next episode.